Hey everybody, how are you doing today? I'm certainly glad to be with you. I really am. I tell you, the time that we spend together, it means the world to me. And I dare not take it for granted. And I dare not take you for granted either. I want to thank you very much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate it. And I certainly would like to welcome you to another episode of TJ's Topics. That's right, I'm back one more time. And of course, you know that I am TJ. And I tell you, and what do you think about the rapid progression of the month of January? I tell you, this month is getting on out of here. It seemed like we just came into this year, and already the first month is just about over. It'll be over in just a few more days. Well, believe it or not, even though this is a new year, there are a ton of people out here who still want to drag the same old stuff with them from last year and the year before and previous years. And one of those things that people want to continue dragging with them is ignorance. You know, people, for some reason, they find comfort and take pleasure in being ignorant. You know, not knowing anything, not understanding anything, and not caring to research anything, which is so sad, especially with all of the tools and all of the resources that we have available to us at the click of a button, available to us at our fingertips. Now, I will say this: the state of ignorance is far worse when it comes to religion. I mean, people in religious settings, they don't want to learn anything. And if you try to present new information to them, they will look at you like you're crazy. But I feel that for them to refuse considering a new thought or, you know, new information, not saying that they have to believe it or accept it, but just consider it. For them to be like that, they are only doing themselves a great disservice. So, but you can't feel sorry for people like that because they're the ones who are refusing it. As it said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, you can lead people to knowledge, but you can't make them think. And that is the truth. Now, as I promised, I wanted to talk about something today that I had pinpointed last week, and that is stupidity, especially when it comes to issues regarding sexuality and stuff. Um, a lot of times Christians, when it comes to matters pertaining to sex, let's face it, they don't really understand anything. They really don't. They think they do. But unless there's a certain level of training and an adequate amount of education that they have received, they really they don't know. Uh-uh. But they find it to be something to be proud of, not knowing. And why is that? I don't know. But that's what I want to discuss for a few moments today. Sexual stupidity in Christianity. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not sure how much I will be able to cover today, so it's possible that I may have to come back and do a second part to this. I don't know. But I'm just going to share with you a little bit, as much as I can, in these few minutes that I have. Sexual stupidity in Christianity. Now, first of all, we have to define stupidity, which is behavior that shows a lack of good judgment and good sense. That's what stupidity is. The quality of being stupid or unintelligent. And I think we know a lot of folks out here like that. Synonyms of stupidity include absurdity, ignorance, lunacy, from which we get the word lunatic, nonsense, and silliness. Being stupid has to do with not understanding things, not learning from past experiences, and generally not using your brain. And sadly, most religious people, most Christians, don't use their brain. In fact, when you go to church on Sunday, if you notice, if you just observe closely, you will see that there is a certain level of unintelligence prevalent amongst the people. It's like they have to check their brains at the door, which is pretty much what you do when it comes to religion. Because if they find where you have any form of knowledge, and if you are a thinker, if you're one who thinks for yourself, nah, they don't care to fool with you. And I know firsthand how that can be because I've been there. In religion, and particularly Christianity, people tend to not demonstrate intelligence. In fact, rarely will you find any logic in a religious setting. When you go to church on Sunday or any other occasion, it's like you have to leave all sense, all knowledge, and all intelligence out there in your car. Because you can't come up in there knowing anything. Because if you do, they will look at you strange and they're apt to approach you in a very unpleasant manner. And I can tell you because I've experienced that many times. How does stupidity and Christianity intertwine with one another? It's a known fact that there is a significant number of uneducated, uninformed, and unintelligent people who flock to church every Sunday, going through life all willy-nilly, thinking that they are better off than those who don't attend church or subscribe to their doctrine of belief. You know, you got a lot of Christians out here who feel like they have the upper hand over those who are non-Christians or who practice some other faith, who don't believe as themselves, who don't behave as themselves. But now, here's the question that I really want to ask. And that is, how does all this apply to sexuality? Well, you know, the church feels as if they are the ultimate source when it comes to all things. And even when it comes to sex, they feel as if they hold the title deed to all of that. And nobody can tell them or show them anything. See, they label themselves as being a chosen people, called out from among the world and set apart for a greater purpose. But you know, over the last few years of observation, I have noticed that, you know, it's like the church, they isolate themselves from the rest of the world as if to say that they are better than those out there, and they operate on a different frequency from the rest of the world. But you know what? In my opinion, it seems as if the religious circle operates on a lower frequency than those who they label as being of the world. And why is that? Well, I can't understand how, you know, we have been taught to have to beg a deity or a source outside of ourselves for our daily needs to be met. Begging in any capacity would put us at a lower frequency. It causes us to vibrate at a much lower level. And that's not good. Well, getting back to the issue of sexuality as it pertains to the church. In the United States, there is a huge lack, and I mean a huge lack, of sexual health education in schools and especially in the church. And in fact, in the church, there is absolutely none, zero training and sexual health. What the church calls sexual health education is nothing more than passed down ignorance. Because let's face it, when it comes to sex, most churchgoers are as lost as a needle in a haystack. they simply do not have a proper explanation regarding how things work, and all they know is what the Bible says, and they think that that's the answer to all problems. And at one time I did myself, but later on I discovered that that's not the case. Now, issues pertaining to sex that Christians are completely ignorant of, and this is just a few of them: the G-spot, the erogenous zone, and both genders have an erogenous zone, a G-spot, male and females. Now, of course, the female G-spot is located right there in her vagina, right there near the opening at the top. But where's the male G-spot located? It's located up inside of his rectum near the prostate area, right there in that spot. The prostate gland, which produces semen and all that, that's where the male G-spot is. But you won't hear this talked about in church because, they think that anything along those lines would be considered immoral or unethical, and the devil. It's sad. It really is. I just hate to see it. How delusional church people are. And to think that I was once among the delusional, and now, like I said, and I still go to church. I really do. And I tell people that. But even though I'm in the church, I almost want to say that I'm not of the church because I don't think along those lines anymore as those people do. I mainly go just to get out the house, and I enjoy the entertainment, the music, and stuff like that. Socialize a little bit. But other than that, I don't have any true purpose for being there. And then, there are other things that they don't understand, the vaginal issues and, diseases, like STDs and stuff like that. they don't really know how to handle. They're not equipped to handle circumstances like that. Most churches are inadequately equipped and trained to tackle sexual issues. All they have to base their theories on is the Bible, which is simply not enough. On top of that, the Bible itself is not the most reliable source of information when it comes to dealing with sex-related topics, because for one thing, it wasn't written by who we call God. Now, the church has always referred to the Bible as the Word of God, but in reality, the Bible is the word of man about God, because the Bible was compiled by a group of uneducated, uninformed religious men who didn't have any proper understanding of anything during their lifetime. And they didn't know how to go about explaining things regarding spirituality or sexuality. Therefore, they had to come up with their own conclusions on everything and present it as the gospel truth. And for centuries, the church has fallen for it. Because, there was a time when lay people who are, the church members, were not allowed access to the scriptures. Only the priests and the bishops and the cardinals were allowed to have access to the scriptures. But even before they handled them, they had to manipulate them, meaning that they had to add to and take away from those scriptures. Oh, they did a whole lot of dirt in order to make people conform to their standard of living and control what people did in their own household, which is just not right. But we have people like the Roman Emperor Constantine and all others who were involved in these dastardly deeds to think, because they're the ones who did it. And the mother church, the Roman Catholic Church, they were heavily involved in the deception of all these millions and millions of people who have ever lived. So that's who we owe our ignorance to. So I tell you, it is absolutely ridiculous. I just don't know what to say. Now, there's a lot more that I want to cover, and I'm going to, but I don't have time to get to it today. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. But I want you to join me next time when I will do part 2 to our discussion, Sexual Stupidity in Christianity. I'll come back next time for part 2. So I want you to stay tuned for that, okay? In the meantime, I want to say thank you very much for tuning in to me. I tell you, I really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in to this edition of TJ's Topics. And I tell you, I really enjoy spending time with you. It means the world to me. I look forward to joining you again next time as we will cover part 2 of this discussion. And I want you to be safe, okay? This is Taryn Jerome Harris, reminding you that every round goes higher and higher. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.